In this video, we will learn how to build a loan table. We'll assume that we're going to borrow $100,000 to buy a house. We'll make annual payments for 15 years at an interest rate of 6%. We don't yet know how to calculate the payment, so we'll go ahead and put in a guess, and then we'll change that guess to get our loan paid off on time. So let's assume that we make 15 payments of $8,000 each. We'll begin in year 1. Let's wrap these labels and center them. So in year 1, the beginning balance of the loan is of course equal to the initial loan amount. The payment in each year is equal to the payment that we guessed. We'll go ahead and make that an absolute reference by hitting F4. The interest portion of that payment is equal to the interest rate times the beginning balance for any given year. And the principal portion of a payment is whatever is left over from the payment that was not interest. Then the ending balance is the beginning balance minus however much principal we paid. The beginning balance of the next year is equal to the ending balance of the previous year. You'll need to go back and look at where we had absolute references carefully. So if the payment was an absolute reference to cell D11, we can copy that down. If the interest was an absolute reference to interest rate and a relative reference to the beginning balance, then we can copy that down. The principal simply looked at 2 cells to the left, and the ending balance 4 cells to the left. So we can copy all of those down. Notice we could not copy down the $100,000 because it was the initial loan amount. After we copy the first row, all except the beginning balance, then everything else is something we can copy down because everything else is looking relative to the year that we're in. So we can just copy it down and see if our guess on payment paid off the loan balance. It did not. It only paid off about half. So you know this game. We could begin to guess different payments, trying to get this number closer to 0. Getting it pretty close now. But as you know, we could use goal seek. And set this value equal to 0 by changing the payment amount. And so a payment of just less than $10,300 would pay this loan off in 15 years. But there's actually a way to calculate that payment. So let's try it. It's called PMT. It uses an interest rate, a number of periods, and a starting value. Notice the negative sign on starting value, so we get a positive interest rate. Now if this were a balloon payment and we were not trying to get the balance all the way down to 0, a balloon loan, then we could also give it a future value for whatever we wanted that remaining loan amount to be after a certain amount of time. We could also default the payments to come at the beginning of the period instead of the end of the period by using the type keyword. And notice we get exactly the same answer with PMT that we got using goal seek. So from now on, we will use the PMT function to calculate payment on loans. So this was an annual loan. Let's look at monthly loans. I'm going to start with this template I'm going to click the sheet name, drag it to the right, hold down Control, and make a copy. Then on the copy, let's go ahead and name that copy monthly. And name the first one annual. Okay. Let's delete all of our rows, all of our formulas, our payment, so we can start over. Let's also insert a row, and this time let's say number of years. And since we're having 15 years with monthly payments, never use a number when a reference will work. Let's talk about periodic interest rate. 6% annual rate in the mortgage industry usually converts to 6 divided by 12 for a monthly interest rate. That is not in keeping with the equations that we've been using, but it's just how the mortgage industry does it. So our periodic interest rate on all mortgages, we're simply going to take the annual rate, divide it by 12 if it's monthly interest. It's not exactly 1%. Let's see what it is. It's exactly 1/2 of 1%. In the payment, PMT function, this time the rate that we will use is the periodic interest rate, so it's the 1/2%. The number of periods is the number of payments we're going to make. The present value, again, is negative 100,000, and there's no future value because this is not a balloon mortgage, and we can leave type empty because our payments come at the end of the month. So our beginning balance, again, is equal to the loan amount. The payment is equal to the payment we just calculated, and we must make that an absolute reference so we can copy it down. The interest portion of that payment is equal to this period's beginning balance times the periodic interest rate. We'll want to make that an absolute reference so we can copy down. The principal portion is equal to the total payment minus the amount which was interest, because whatever is not spent on interest goes to principal to pay down the balance. And so the new balance is the original balance less the amount that went to principal. And then the beginning balance for the next month is the ending balance from the last month. Better change our label to month. We should be able to copy down all these formulas. Now we should be able to copy down all these formulas. And since we want this to go out to 180 months, let's select 2 rows. In Excel, we'll know to count from 2 to 3 to 4 and so on. And it will know to copy down the formulas that we have on row 17 and 18. We want to get to 180 months, and I can't remember where we started, so I'm going to go to a couple hundred. And then I'm going to back it up to 180. And since we used the PMT function, this time the loan gets paid off exactly at the end of 180 months. Now it's red telling me it's negative, so it's probably not exactly 0, but it's very, very, very close. I'm going to undo all those. So now we have a monthly loan table. It gets paid off in 180 months.